Styleboy and welcome to my world. And today we are discussing something. So you know if I discuss something it's going to be intense, so be prepared. Basically today what I wanted to talk about was the whole Sia music thingy. I know it came out like a month ago and autistic people have been on it. And I have not really spoken. I've spoken out on my Instagram, but I really wanted to do a video on it. I'm extremely passionate about it and I feel like this still gets me pissed and really angry to this day. Like even thinking about it, because it's just so much of the same stuff that keeps on happening and the same stuff I've been talking about for years. Like I'm not kidding you, I think I made a video in like 2017 that's literally about this topic and yet no one is listening, and I will get into that. I'm gonna get into the problems with it. I just really want to discuss this. But before we start, make sure you do subscribe, and if you want more autistic content, literally it's gonna come like. And without further ado, let's begin the rant. For those who don't actually know about what the hell the Sia thing is about, I think in like November, like the end of November, Sia released the trailer for her movie called Music. Music is about the journey of the caregiver. I think it's her sister. The caregiver's journey. It's not the autistic characters, we know that. How the caregiver stopped what she's doing to take care of her non-verbal autistic little sister. Now, it's also pretty star-studded because you've got Kate Hudson. You know in Glee when Rachel goes to like college and it's like the dance shoot and then she sings and all that jazz? That one. That's a weird reference, I know. It's got Burr from Hamilton. You know Leslie? Him. And it's also got Maddie Ziegler playing the autistic girl. It's directed by Sia, the story is by Sia, and so you already know what we're already gonna start with this. It's got a lot of backlash from the autistic community, and it's very much hated. And let me explain to you why it's hated. We're gonna do each stages. So we're gonna first start off with the trailer. So the general gist of the trailer watching it. Firstly, a non-autistic actor is playing a autistic character. Now, we know this ain't brand new. We know this is not genius, but guess what happens? Stereotypes still get portrayed. Constant stereotypes, because you're not getting an actual autistic actor, a person who's dealing with these experiences and a person who understands how it feels to be in the circumstances and the position that an autistic person goes through. You're getting someone who isn't autistic to play something that they've never experienced. They are then going to portray a lot of stereotypes. It can be very offensive, it can be just very tiresome, and it can be plain old rude. Because Maddie didn't even feel comfortable doing this, which then made me go, wait, why? Because basically, here's the story with it. Sia originally got an autistic girl to do this, but apparently it was too stressful, which I'll get into why this is a bullshit excuse also later on. So she switched it for Maddie. And then we also found out that Maddie did not feel comfortable actually playing the role. She was like, I don't feel comfortable, this was weird. And Sia was like, no, it's fine, you're gonna help so many people. Which then proves Sia was never really making this for the right intention. It was just used as, what do we call it? Inspiration porn. Now, if you don't know what inspiration porn is basically kind of in the name. It's basically to inspire people to do something with their life that's great, or to kind of remind people like, hey, if this person is less off, I'll get into why that's also problematic. They're less off and they're struggled and look where they are. They're celebrating like, you can do the same. Let's already discuss why this is a pain in the ass. So, inspiration porn is annoying because A, it somehow feels like neurotypical people, aka those without autism or anything that makes them neurodivergent, they like to see autistics and neurodivergent people as inspiration, as something that's great. Either you want us to be the best freaking thing on earth and be like, wow, despite of their blank, their autism, their ADHD or whatever, they are doing so well and so can you, or you want us for charity, you know, one or the other. When I talk about like charity and stuff like that, what I mean is that, okay, one of the examples is in the UK, we've got stuff like Children in Need and Red Nose Day and stuff like that, where there'll be causes that you can donate to, and one of them most of the time come up with autism. I've seen this a couple of times, and I'm not saying that the causes of the problem or the charities or the non-profit organizations that are supporting autistic people, no, not at all. They're doing well. We've done research and all that stuff. What I'm saying is bad is that as autistic people or as neurodivergent people, we're only being shown within those circumstances, and we're not really being shown within an everyday basis in society and how we actually live. We're only being shown as this like tiny little group that you need to donate to, or we're being shown as an inspiration. I explained this later in the video, but yeah. Versus actually seeing us as a freaking human being. Versus seeing us as like, hey, I am my autism, but I'm also a freaking human. Treat me like a human. I'm not your source of inspiration. Like, if you want a freaking source of inspiration, there are plenty of films. Like, why rely on autistic people? Which is why the comment of "you're so brave" kind of annoys me, because I'm literally living my life. And usually with inspiration porn, it usually is because they started off at a less fortunate position, or because they are dealing with something, and always autism gets brought into it. I've noticed this a lot. Like, despite their autism, they are able to do peripheral things. And the thing is, this is the stigma, and this is why I think a lot of inspiration form actually is quite stigmatizing. It's because autism is always classed as a bad thing. It's like, oh my god, it's so terrible, it's so bad, and this and that. And the actual fact is, autism is not a bad thing. We face struggles, yes, and we face things that maybe not other people deal with, but we also face stuff that A, a lot of people do deal with, and B, the thing is, there are so many good traits that come from autism that don't ever get shown in the media or discussed within the media. Like, for example, we're super creative, we're super analytical, and when it comes to our special interests, for example, like, we're super honed in on it, and we are become so engrossed in it, like we can potentially use it as our jobs and be the experts in it. So it really, really gets annoying and fed up when everyone portrays autism as bad and that you wish you would never have. And you're probably just thinking like, oh my god, that's not everyone, and that's probably not it. Why is it then I get comments on my videos saying about how their child has been cured of autism and how this is a number you can take to this doctor to cure your child? There's still a stigma around autism. That's my evidence. And I think it annoys me because this isn't even from the perspective really of the autistic character. It's kind of heroing the non-autistic character, the one who's taking care of the autistic character, which then almost signifies two things, with the same with the inspiration porn. One, that autism is a bad thing, so it's kind of almost like stigmatizing autism even more. I didn't even realize, but I think when I did my Love on the Spectrum video, which by the way, it's gonna be up there, so if you wanna watch that, that is a really good one if you want a video about autism and media, it should be up there. There were like particular comments that were made by the neurotypical parents, like the divorce comment, about like, oh my god, parents with autistic children are more likely to get divorced. What it kind of does, it's almost like blaming the autistic child for their divorce, when in actual fact your divorce happened because you two just didn't compat together and you two realized you had communication issues and you two don't get along, you don't love each other, not because of the autistic child. It's nothing to do with it. And it's almost the same with this. It's like, if it was a neurotypical child, this would never be happening. This wouldn't be the same. Like, Kate Upton's character would not be seen as this higher figure, this like, whoa, she's such an amazing person for looking after a child. It's like, no, that's your responsibility, it's your duty. But because they have autism, whoa, inspirational. And it just annoys me because it then diminishes us further, like autistic people, because what happens is, because you have this stigma, you have this thing that autism is hard and autism is difficult and autism is bad, what kind of happens is that when us autistic people tell everyone else like, hey, we're autistic, it then creates like a stigma and behaviors start to change around us. Like, we've had this, like they start to treat us differently, and generally in the world it creates negative representation. I think because of this stigma and because of the bad representation, like I was explaining before, this is why a lot of people have probably said to me when I've said that I am autistic, oh my god, you don't look autistic, wow, I would have never guessed. Or I've said, oh, you're super high functioning, and people think that's a compliment, and it's not. I'll tell you why. It's because what it's kind of doing, and I did a whole video on this, but it kind of invalidates my identity and like diminishes it smaller because of this bad stigma that people have with it. Like, if you don't seem it, or you don't look autistic, or you don't appear to follow the stereotypes of autism, then you're fine, you're in the good books. When in actual fact, I'm happy with my autism, I'm proud of my autism. There's many different parts of me, but it's still part of my identity, and I'm proud of that identity, and I'm proud of that element, and I never ever want that identity to be shoved to the side anymore. I've had that feeling before, and I don't want it. I'm proud of myself, and people saying that makes me feel like it should be swept to the side. Autism should be disappearing, when in actual fact it shouldn't be. It creates judgment before actually even getting to know us when we discuss it, and it's this discomfort, and it's this like hurt a little bit that you feel like you never will get treated right, and you'll never get treated the same, and you'll never really have that opportunity because of the stigmas that are with autism. I'll get into other media representations accommodations as well because they don't help. And this just adds on top of it. And also, guess what? I don't think there was any autistic people on set, apart from a background maybe, because she said that, oh God. There was no autistic people during the filming. There wasn't any autistic people within screenwriting, within directing, within anything. Which basically then proves that the story isn't actually approved by us. It's approved for neurotypical people to be like, wow, just get us autistics in the set. Get us everywhere. Like, that's the thing is, which really pisses me off, is like, why didn't you hire us? We're not that difficult to find. Come on, like, there are plenty of autistic actors out there, literally on social media, on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. There are plenty of autistic screenwriters, autistic directors, autistic costume designers. There's autistic people in every single profession, but specifically with the film industry, you can also do that. Literally, we are so good at thinking of creative and unique ideas. We're so good at making sure that like representation is going to be fair, that we know exactly what to do in certain circumstances because we are the ones facing them circumstances. We are going to be the ones, for example, if we're dealing with sensory overload, we know what it's like to go through it and what it's like to feel it and what it's like when you're sensibly very happy and then when you're sensibly very overloaded and you're overwhelmed. We know how it feels to go through those experiences that you will be talking about in this film. We know exactly how it feels. We have faced those experiences. So why won't you hire us? Why? Why don't you? Like, we're here. Just hire us. It makes life way easier. You're paying us. You're paying disabled people. You're paying autistic people. You're creating a work environment that's a lot more diverse because guess what? Inclusion is not only with race and sexuality, it's also with disability and religion and neurodiversity. What's also happening is you're actually representing a story way more fairly and you're representing a story that is going to actually represent people, not like every other story. So I just don't understand. I just read this as slightly ableist. And it's not, you're probably like, oh my God, maybe not. Oh, the responses piss me off. And this is why I said this is reading off as ableist. So, on Twitter, on Twitter, we love Twitter. I don't have Twitter, but still. People were getting pissed, and rightfully so, because guess what? We're allowed to. And autistic people were communicating to Sia. We're basically saying like, Sia, why didn't you hire someone autistic? Like, it would have been much more better. It would have been this, it would have been that. And I'm not kidding you, the responses were so bad. Like, I'll read one to you. I'll also put it on screen over here. From INNN. Several autistic actors, myself included, responded to these tweets. We all said we could have acted in a short notice. These excuses are just excuses. The matter of fact is zero effort was made to include anyone that is actually autistic. So that was like the response. Perfectly fine. Criticism. You should be able to take criticism, hun. C responds, maybe you're just a bad actor. And this is what? Ableism right in your motherfucking face. This is ableism. I can't, there's nothing else to it. It just screams ableist because what you're basically saying to me is that I can't act and autistic people can't act, although we're there. Like, it also comes off as you didn't put enough effort in. And this is what I mean. As soon as we say we're autistic, we get judged like that, and then comments and behaviors do change. That is a perfect example of it. This comment still pisses me off. Like, even like listening, I was just like, idiot. Another one was basically that she hired a autistic actor to play the role, but it was too stressful and cruel and not kind, so we switched it for Maddie because it would be kinder to her. This also screams ableism, and I'll tell you why. So the reason why this screams ableist is because what you're doing is you've hired someone and the environment is stressful. It's actually not right. Like, I'm not kidding you. In the UK we have this. I don't know if they have it in America, but I definitely know in the UK we do, which basically it is that if we are able to stay because we have a disability or because we need extra support in something, or I think even if you have like a back pain, you are legally allowed to tell your employer things to change for the set, things to change in general. So like, for example, if someone has like back pain, let's just say like here, it is legal that if you go, hey, can I have this chair when I work in this environment? Your work environment should give you that type of chair to accommodate your needs, for example. Or there's a TikToker who does this as well. I don't have to do it, but it's on Instagram. I'll put it up there if I remember. But she was basically saying that she has a requirement, like a bunch of things that she says at her work she's entitled to, because again, it's the law. Like, this is something you're allowed to have. You're accommodating to my needs. Basically, long story short, if you have a disability or if you have like a certain back pain or whatever, and you need to change the environment that you work in around you to make sure that you can work efficiently and work to the best of your production
productivity, your work should allow you to do that. And Sia not doing this is kind of weird, kind of iffy.
So it's like, for example, like maybe dimmer lighting, a more quieter environment, more space, more time. And her work environment's like, yes, that's completely fine. And in a film set, that should be no different. So instead of making someone feel like a piece of shit and firing them for literally having a natural human reaction, you should be able to accommodate their needs and change the set and change the environment and allow them to process it. This could be, for example, the autistic actor that was playing had a meltdown and was stressed out because the amount of people or the colors or the noise or literally any single senses were just triggered and overloaded. And what Sia should have done is accommodate to their needs. Leave them time to calm down because they deserve the time to breathe. And once they have calm and are ready, they're able to be like, hey, what would you need to help you out? What do you need to help you feel better? And then therefore, they would be able to create a more safer working environment for them because that affects their mental health. At the end of the day, mental health is equally as important as physical health. But by this response of her, oh, we thought it'd be kinder to switch, this then proves, one, you aren't doing it for us, you're doing it for you, just to get your film out there versus doing it for us and making sure we're represented and we're feeling safe. A. B, it's almost like you're saying like, oh, you can't have a meltdown on set. You can't go through sensory overload because if you do, then you're gonna get fired, which is literally one of my biggest insecurities. I had this insecurity at work and this really made me so upset, specifically because I always had this fear, particularly during Christmas. Like I worked in retail, I worked at Lush to be exact, and it was so like busy, there were so many people and it was just crowded, so many lights, so many noises, so many things to touch and so many smells, and it just became so much that I was going through sensory overload. Like I didn't know at the time, I was just like, am I getting overwhelmed? But actually, in fact, I was going through sensory overload and I needed to take time to breathe. And every single moment, particularly during Christmas, I was getting worse and it was getting worse and worse and worse. And I felt like at any moment they would have told me, we're firing you. I was that paranoid and that scared in case I was gonna get fired from my job. I was gonna lose money, I was gonna lose an opportunity to work because of feeling sensory overload, because of feeling all of this. Like I was so scared. And if I had this and this response during that time period, it would have really fucked with me. It would have really damaged my mental health and it would have made me feel so isolated and so alone and so sad because it's like, well, if she got fired from her job for being autistic basically, I'm gonna be fired for being an autistic person. It comes off like that. And that's why I was like, it's ableist because you're not actually catering to our needs. What you are actually doing is you're catering to the needs of what you want to do because you want to get it done by a certain time. That really hit my feelings, but yeah, I think that's the truth. That really pisses me off. Like really makes me sad and angry. So much. And the thing is, it doesn't get any better. She also talks about working with Autism Speaks.
So if you don't know what Autism Speaks is, let me give you a quick little summary of what it is. It is a United States charity/organization which is supposed to be advocacy for autistic people. Here's why it's actually not and why it's hated by the autistic community. One, because in the actual head team, there's no people who are autistic in it. Two, what it does is actually continues to stigmatize autism and makes the situation for us worse because it's, again, going back to the whole like sympathy and stigmatizing because it's a bad thing. And then thirdly, their aim is to try and find a cure for it. And obviously, like I said in the beginning, I don't want it to be, autism is not a bad thing. Let's stop thinking of it like that. So it makes me very uncomfortable. So that is why it's a very bad thing. And getting information from them, Sia, obviously shows that A, she didn't do enough research, and B, that again, we're going back to the whole, like, it's from the perspective of a neurotypical person, it's not from the perspective of an autistic person.
Now, what doesn't help are some of the responses from others. So these are like her fans and other people. So let me explain to you why this doesn't help, because they were like, oh my god, Sia, they're just trying to cancel you. Ignore the haters, ignore them. You are a star, you're doing the best you can. Well, what do you mean? Like, this is what I don't get. This is the thing that always has confused me with this, because at the end of the day, these are people's lives you're talking about here. These are people who are tired and exhausted of being misrepresented and barely being represented and barely their rights being spoken about. Autistic people are tired and done with being misrepresented. I'm done with being misrepresented. I'm done with someone trying to control how I should view myself. I'm done with watching autistic media or reading an autistic book or looking at something to do with autism and being like, I'm never gonna be shown. I'm so done with being pushed to a side because we want to see a neurotypical person play the role instead. And I'm so tired with stereotypes being portrayed, and I'm so done with it. And just these comments prove to me that I don't know if the rest of the world is ready for it. I don't know if it is. I don't know if the world is ready to truly include disabilities and include autism and include neurodivergence into media. I don't know. And that's what exhausts me. Also, let's get into this. We're not haters. We're just talking to you. We're just saying, hey, we don't like this. That's it. We're telling you, hey, why couldn't you just hire us? We would have been able to do it. We're not being rude. We're not being mean. And we're not being like, ugh. We're being human, and we're allowed to get angry, and we're allowed to get pissed. And by the responses, it's almost like you're diminishing the autistic community's voice. And that's how I felt. I felt diminished, being like, you need to move on, you need to go with this, and like, oh, they're just haters. Like, it diminishes our voice and puts us down and makes us feel so small and so little in a box that we just shove to the side because it's not what's popular and it's not what neurotypical people think. And it's like, we deserve the representation like every other person. We deserve our stories and for people to learn about us. And we deserve to be represented. We deserve to be on screens. We deserve to be treated fairly. I want to feel represented. I want to feel seen. I want to feel included. I really do. I was thinking about this video last night basically, and I thought this like metaphor that sometimes I feel like with having a disability and being autistic, when you are speaking about it, it feels like you're almost in a box sometimes. It feels like you can scream and it feels like this box is gonna be forever closed. Like this glass box, like everyone can see you and no one does anything.
Granted, I don't actually mean like everyone does nothing. I'm just saying this is like a metaphor and just as how I was feeling at the time we're making this video. So yeah, it sometimes does feel like that. I know that people are starting to talk about it a little bit more, but at the same time, it's just like I wish people felt confident enough to talk about these issues, because these are issues that we're facing and these issues are equally as important as other issues in the world.
I don't know. Sometimes you just feel like I want someone to speak up. Please speak up. Like, I need you to speak up. I need you to speak. This is something I'm extremely passionate about, and I want to feel seen within media, and I want to feel seen everywhere. I don't want to feel like I'm not included, and I want to feel like if I am included or if someone includes me, my purpose is not to be taken the piss out of or as a joke or as a laugh. I want to be there because I want to show people this is what autism is actually like, and this is what autistic people are like. We're more than just a stereotype. We're more than just what you see in a film. We're more than just what you see in media. We are more than that. I really felt that. I really felt every single word, and I just want to give myself a hug. I do hope you enjoy it. Extremely passionate, and I feel like this is definitely a video I feel very proud of making. Please comment down below your opinions, and I do hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, adios, goodbye people, goodbye.